Okay. Hello, hello, hello. All right, good for me. This time I got everything set up correctly right away because I'm so smart. We would like to believe that that's the case. This sure is just in my face. Someone's doing a terrible job at setting their microphone. Couldn't be me, though. I am back, and I am live once more. Dun, 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 dun. Mm-hmm. Come join us, I summon you. Come to the live stream. I'm a totally normal person. Okie dokie. Well, hello, hello to anyone who has made their way here. I am once again, yet again, I am here to answer your questions, say hello, and generally hang out. Ooh, I got named in things. How interesting. Ooh, I already saw a question. Hold up. Ethan of Athos. This might be a bit meta, but a reading on how the crowdfunding is going to go would be interesting. That's kind of fun. Welcome, Ethan. I don't think I've seen you in the other streams yet, so howdy doody. Because you're the first person to ask. Not only will you get your reading, of course. I mean, I guess technically I'll get the reading. But yeah, you can feel free to ask a question about yourself, your life, what's up with you. Let's bring in Weir. Hi, Curse. Good to see you again. I love having people pop back in from things. Hello, Fear and Ramen. How we doing, y'all? Wait, what just rolled out? It was weird. As much as I love my cat, him not being here right now to knock around the dice is actually kind of nice. Bring things in so you can see dice that ran away a little bit. And all right, our first reading of tonight's reading session begins. It's kind of for us, right? Your question is how the crowdfunding will go. So let's take a look. Core to past, it looks like diamonds. In the past leading to the project, there was maybe expectations of big shiny diamonds. Diamonds are kind of a complex thing on the resources die. We do have this very delightful cheat sheet card that does talk about it, so we'll just read that real quick. Diamonds are gleaming and pretty. Ornamentation is nice, but not needed. Enjoy the art for what it is. Accept it when it is possible, but remember, simplicity in form can give more to function. I'll definitely say I put more putting together this project, more time into putting together this project than any of my other projects before. So there's definitely something to be said for me, like maybe over embellishing the project a little bit, over filling it with things. Oh no, I got attacked by a cable. I have a really professional setup here, I promise. That's why my phone cable is hanging just above my head at all times. That's professional, right? Actually, I bet I could just move it closer. That would help with the issue. Much better. I don't remember that being on camera last time. There we go. My live stream setup is getting called into question because I have a Stitch plushie holding up a cable. I don't know if that one is correct. But yeah, there's also the knot next to the diamond. So I think that those two were definitely suggesting that maybe there was a little more simplicity I could have followed through on with the dice. I didn't need to go so big on the preparation for it. Way out here in history, we have the movement die with the back arrow, but it's pointing forwards, which implies that maybe I'm moving forward in a way that's still moving me backwards. Like the project is advancing in such a way that it might be working incorrectly, maybe. Or maybe the forward arrow with back is saying, you know, this is a third version of an old thing and it's still moving forward. I like that. That's a lot nicer. Right here in present, I have the radiance face of the summer die. It's verging on future here, and it's definitely telling me that there's a big radiating energy going on here that is going to be a little bit blinding from right now going to the future. It's going to be easy for people to get a little surprised or overwhelmed even with the project. As far as funding goes, I mean, radiance is not a bad thing. It kind of would suggest to me that things get really exciting and beautiful and big in some way that really pushes the envelope maybe. We do have in the elements here the leaf or earth. This was actually down a little bit off camera, but it was still on the cloth in the beyond area. Beyond is just like this very, very outside area. This tells me that because it's in the general without space. Oh my god, the other cat just entered my office and left. That was so surprising. I didn't expect him. He never comes in here. I would read this as meaning that people show up, right? There are many different forms of support and roots and basis, and they are arriving in the present to take part and help bring the campaign to life. Way over here, though, for the future and edging out of the core here into within is kind of like misfortune and bad luck. It's paired here with the relations die, which is an isolation, telling me that there's some kind of space yet in the future where there's going to feel like an extreme sense of isolation, and it comes with generally misfortune or not good. Way out here I see Weir, which is the opening face. Weir is the die and the Lord, but the face is opening. It's showing me that like new doors are opening in the future, even though it looks like there's some misfortune kind of happening here. And the ultimate fated outcome, we have the sun and moon, and we have the gear on the goblins die. I had to roll the goblins die. This is about a publishing goblin project, right? The sun and moon on the fantasy die talks about things sometimes having their time, and that time might not be now, but it might be later. It could mean that maybe the oracle dice have a better time to try to reach bigger funding goals maybe at a later date. I would definitely say that just from expectation alone, this project's been a lot slower than I would have expected. So I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in the future, because it looks like there are opportunities still ahead, maybe the dice come back for a remanufacturing run and they just get more traction at a time that's a little more steady for people financially. I do see the gear over there, which is literally the manufacturing phase, which tells me that these dice get to exist in the world. No matter what, it's fated to happen. It will definitely occur. It might just be that this time around it's a little slim. Because I'm sure we'll reach our funding goal, but I don't think we're going to go too much beyond it based on just the speed of funding so far. So thank you for the question, Ethan. Let me know if you have another question, or if people have general thoughts, questions about the project, questions about the dice. I'm happy to just like sit around and chat about anything. Last stream this morning we were talking about politics for a while, which is sometimes dubious, but generally pretty fun. I'm also happy just to do dice reading questions for people. I'm sticking with the past, present, future grid right now, because I think it's so fun to do something I so rarely do. Hey, congrats on the launch. I need to learn some tips from you on how to be so productive. Oh, if I look productive, you've been fooled by the exciting veneer. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I would say just generally that so much of what I do is working on things that I feel like an extreme pull to work on. And also because I made it my business, it is a necessity, right? Like I have to launch project and project and project, because if I don't, I'll run out of money and I'll be poor again. I mean, I am always poor, but that's just the exciting part of being creative for a business. So put your livelihood on the line, I guess. You'll be so productive. Fear and Ramen. I'm headed back to college this Monday, non-traditional online, and I'd love some dice advice on heading back into school stress. That I can do. Ethan, on the flip through video, I don't think the anchor face of the mariner got covered. Well, I will tell you about it right now before I do this reading. So the anchor is right here. The anchor is a really delightful face. Whenever it comes up, I think about it as whatever die it's next to is a really important anchor for you. And the anchor has two sides to it, just like anything. I think a lot about tarot, like the Queen of Swords, for example. At her best, she's very decisive, maybe even quick-witted, and she makes really difficult decisions with somewhat ease. But at her worst, she makes decisions too quickly, and because she cuts them with her sword, she can't get them back. In that way, I think about the anchor in the same way. I think about all the faces in the same way. At its best, or maybe in light or something, the anchor is something that is an important touchstone for you that really helps you. At its worst, or in shadow, I think about the anchor as something that is weighing you down. And I pretty much always consider where it's at and who it's next to. If it's alone, then depending on what reading grid you're using, you could say that the quarter it's in relates to that. All right, Fear and Ramen, let's give it a go. You are going back to college, so we're taking a little bit of a trip. You might have things influencing you. Since we're doing like kind of the first person reading here, I'm just gonna throw the season's dice all in. Oh, that was a really tight cast. Things did not go very far. All right, let's have a look, Fear and Ramen. In the core, we have almost every die. I cast a little weakly here, but in my opinion, the way the dice land is the way the dice land. So, gosh, we have a cup that is being carried by the goal and poured out oppression onto flight. There's literally a bird on both sides, and the difference is one of them wants no responsibility and to get away from problems, and the other one is trying to unabashedly be themselves. This is a whole thing right here. Wow. I've never seen the birds facing each other like this and interacting with other dice in a row. There's some amount to which your stubbornness and desire to go back to school here is literally pouring in your heart and the mind. The way it kind of feels is that you're pouring oppression onto your freedom. You are stalling out your time and claiming it for something, and your id, like your little child self, is like, I really want to do a bunch of things. Actually, I don't want to get tied down. So this is actually a really big core problem. This is leaning into the past, which would suggest to me that this is something that you maybe have already worked through a little bit. But because it's here, I'm going to assume that it's still present in some way, even if it's lesser. So let's see what that leads to. Over here in past, we have the stray from the alley die. This tells me that you I'm going to say, because we're leaning more within, that this die is suggesting that maybe you feel a little bit like a stray. Maybe going back to school for you is a way to re-engage yourself with a world that you maybe have felt a little separated from. And it also might make you feel like you have more of a place in the world. Strays generally do not. So that could be part of your reasoning for heading here. In the present, we have nothing actually out here, but I do have excess from the summer die from core pouring down. We've got 2 goblets here. These are both the goblets in the dice, and they're both pouring out. So I would say that right now, your focus is solely on this. You have created a setup where you are going to be fully locked in. And there's going to be an important question that you're going to have to ask yourself pretty quickly about the excess of class and classwork. How does it fit into your life? Does it completely dominate your life? Do you lose access to any free time? Does it become everything about you? And I would say present's empty right now because you're asking yourself those questions, but you don't have answers yet, which is fair. You're just about to go back to school on Monday, but keep these things in mind. Find ways to keep time for yourself, because it looks like that's something that is an inner worry. Over here in the future, we have the stores, the barrel phase here on the autumn die. We also have good intentions on the influences die and personal transformation coming out of the core. I would say that these 3 are not a triangle. Triangle shapes mean things in reading. So if they were like this, then like these 2 things uphold this. If they were like this, then these 2 things are held up by this, but they're not very well situated and they could fall. This is not a triangle to me, and I'm not going to read it as such. I think that these are kind of unrelated. This guy's just over here on his own. In the immediate future, I view this as kind of a timeline. So like this is further in the past, closer in the past, the immediate past. This is like maybe right now. This is in a little bit. This is very soon. This is the immediate future, later in the future, further in the future. So I would view the stores here as a sign that you're going to have to start storing up your energy and your focus and your drive so that you can have that available both for schoolwork and also things outside of school and work. You need space to be a person and feel connected to the world in ways that aren't just school or work. So this is maybe advice. These 2 are definitely related. They're too close not to be. The personal transformation is really core to the reading, and it feels like you are approaching this in a way where you expect yourself to become in some way a different person, which makes a lot of sense with the stray. You feel a little disconnected from the rest of the world, and you're maybe hoping that by becoming more educated in whatever way you're doing it, you will engage yourself in some way that makes you into kind of a different person. The more of the person you want to be. I do see good intentions here on the influences die, which does warn me that you have good intentions in trying to become this other version of you, but good intentions have a way of making mistakes when they are made without all the knowledge. So I would say be very, very careful about viewing yourself as a new person, instead of making efforts to like expand yourself in some way to become a new person. There's sometimes that people will just take on the mantle of, I have changed, I am now this. And that doesn't always actually work, and it doesn't always actually represent who they've become or what they've changed and gained. Over here in Faded, also tucked into the within area, we have snow. Snow is a little bit complicated, and even though I've had it in a few readings these last 2 days, I don't think I've actually explained it super deeply. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. The way I think about snow is when you are living somewhere that snows, first of all, and also living somewhere that has a yard. Okay, these are two things you have to think about. You're looking out your window, and let's say it's summer, and you see your yard, and you see the bike in the yard, you see the fence, you see the grass, you see that hole where you were going to put a post or something. You know all the details. But when the snow comes in and it lays out everywhere, and the snow begins covering all the details, you only see the shape of what your yard looked like. You no longer see the details. And that's how I think about snow. If you kind of continue on this path, the fated outcome is that you get to a point where you stop thinking about the details of what came before, um, and you stop remembering maybe a little bit about who you were in this attempt to transform yourself. You start only remembering the outlines of things. And that is usually a warning to be wary of that. Um, don't ever put yourself in a position where you've given up who you used to be without at least recognizing that it's gotten you to where you are. Okay. I hope that was fun. I say every time. Yeah. Delightful. Thank you for the question, Fear and Ramen. Scoreman, that's so funny. I think that pressure would actually help me. Would love a reading on turning my creative pursuits into a career, or at least focusing on them way more. Scoreman, I feel like a lot of people have been coming to the chat being like, I would like to dig into my like creative side more. Fair warning from everyone in the indie industries about having it be a career right now. Right now is a really rough, not great time financially for so many people, and as a result, it ends up being a pretty rough, not great financial time for creatives who are trying to, for instance, crowdfund their things. So just be careful, be patient. It may behoove you to make plans now and then act on them later in this year or next year, just because things are a little bit volatile economically and politically. But let's take a look. I'm using the Hot Housewives dice for your question, plus some of these guys, maybe what you want out of it. Let's throw Fate in there and the majors. Ooh, things really ran places. Ethan, thank you for asking that. You can't quite see the full grid, and I do apologize for that. I thought that I could put the camera high enough you could see the full grid, but it's as high as it goes, and it's not high enough, I have found out. So in between fated and past, past and present, present, future, future, fated, there are these corner names that all have things. Between fated and past is history. And the way I talk about it is what makes it different than just the past. Like, there's a lot of things that happen in your past, but a lot of the things you kind of gloss over or you don't fully remember. History is the stuff that's like the stuff in your biography, the stuff that you know and it affected the rest of your life. Between past and present is the foundation. It's the foundation of what's happening right now. It's how past and present have connected. Over between present and future is momentum. It's how the present things are leading into the future. And then finally, future and fated is inevitable. So that's what those general zones mean. And then obviously, yeah, whatever die lands there could have a million different possible reasons or meanings depending on what the reading is about and what it's trying to tell you about it. But those are the corners. I don't know why my nose is so itchy. I just feel like I just need sandpaper. Save me, exfoliate my nose. Okay. Thank you for the question. I do appreciate it. Scoreman. In core, number 1, we do have essentially the tower. We have ruin here. We also have financial progress, which is the actual symbol would be vaguely pointing this way. which is not suggesting that it's necessarily bad, but the symbol that will be on the actual die can like be an upward arrow or a downward arrow to talk about financial change in progress. And then over here, injustice. In the core, I see injustice. Hmm. I just got distracted by noises I was hearing outside of my room. Sorry. Uh, right now, what I'm already seeing here is like the financial line go confusing, uppy. We've got ruin. We have an injustice. I'm not sure what the injustice is about, but it's leaning towards faded. So I'll wait until we get into that quarter to talk about it, maybe. But in the core, I'm already seeing like there's a lot of huge uncertainty. Things are making massive shifts, and that is leaving you in a position where you're not 100% certain on what could even be possible. Which I mean, you already said literally in the chat, so that's not the dice giving me information. I guess I read you saying it. Here we have the brick. I love playing out the cheat sheet just to remind people there's cool cheat sheets that come with the new sets. These are the bricks. The bricks are made to create stronger foundations. They take more time, require artisans in the craft of making them and placing them, but this effort is rewarded. Value the labor, the resource, and the skills needed. Basically, take time to do what's right. I already said this to you, but since this is in the past, it looks like you were already kind of starting to put some of that together for yourself. You were starting to plan out what it would look like to take on this endeavor. So maybe you didn't need that particular advice. This die is the play die, and it is the celebrate face. It looks like some of the stuff that you were working on was maybe stuff that was lauded and supported and celebrated by people close to you. People being like, oh, you really should do this. You should make this a business. Oh, yeah, I would buy it. Fair warning. Lots of people will say they'll buy your things. And it's not that they're wrong, they're very kind. They mean well. But it is also super duper common for friends and, acquaintances to be like, oh my God, yeah, if you made scented candles, I would buy your scented candles. But then, like, you go and make them, and then half the people who said that they would do it come and look, and then, like, a fourth of them actually buy something. It's not because they're bad, it's just because they mean well and they're trying to be supportive, and that's really awesome. But just be careful of hype. I think that a lot of people get tricked by hype and becoming yes men into doing labor, and then they find out it doesn't pay off. In past projects, anytime anyone ever suggested anything, I would try to find a way to make that happen. People would be like, oh, can you make an add on that's just this? And I'm like, yeah, of course. But now I'm realizing that there are reasonable limitations that you need to enforce for yourself, and especially your business, if you choose to make it a business, about what you actually are going to work on. So be mindful. People who are supportive are very kind and sweet, but also they can overhype you, and then you're like, cool, if I do it, I at least have a bunch of people who want to do it. And then maybe they don't show up. Again, not because they're mean, they're trying to be helpful and supportive. In the present, way out here in the foundation area that I was talking about between past and present, we actually have the Ace of Spades. This is telling me that externally there were situations or maybe an opportunity that's coming to your lap right about now that is like exactly what you need, apparently, for this creative endeavor. It might be that you just got the materials needed for whatever you were going to work on. And this will seem like a good sign that you should go and do it. Obviously, we have ruin right here in the core. And I am going to go out on a limb and say it's probably related to the state of everything right now. Things are hugely shifting, and it's making market super volatile. So you might even have everything you need to start your creative endeavor as a business, but it doesn't mean that the world is in a good spot for it. And that's kind of up to you, my dear friend. Over here, again, we had the financial line that was kind of going in a confusing direction. We also have focus on the Goblin's die. It looks like in the immediate future, you are going to receive some amount of focus and visibility, I guess, from other people for your creative endeavor. So this sounds like it could be something you could actually set up, as long as you don't go full tilt into assuming it's going to be your day job for right now. People are going to look and have interest, so that could be worthwhile. Also, way over here, we have the longings die, the longing to be held. This is very focused on this idea that you are longing to have support and care through the process. And to be honest, since it's out here, I'm actually going to assume that it is related to you in some way, people assisting you and supporting you. And that could be really good. So maybe it works out, actually, even though I have all this like cruel, sad advice, I guess. In Faded, we have the injustice, we have binary propaganda, and loyalty to capital, which is on the edge of within. One of the outcomes of doing this as a business for you is you're going to be put in situations where you're going to have to make yes and no decisions that really rely on your connection and loyalty to the capital part of your business, especially if it becomes your like day job. You have to start doing things and making choices that make you all the more connected to the money tied into your business, and that really does remove you in some element from the creative parts. I have to admit that on my own too. And I would say the injustice is the part that really worries me. I would be very wary of putting all your eggs in one basket, because it looks like there could end up situations where you have to make what ends up feeling like sleazy or underhanded choices on your part to keep things going. And again, the propaganda, that's a weird one. Propaganda next to binary. I think maybe the advice is to be wary of ultimatums that are presented to you, where people are like, you have to do this or this will happen with your business. You have to do this or your creative business will collapse. Try not to buy into that, because that will put you in a position where you start making choices that maybe alienate other people in your life to support your business. And that's just not great. You don't want to end up in that position. I will say that overall the world is uncertain, but it looks like you actually have some things moving here and maybe a good support structure that it would be worth starting this up. Just be patient, go lightly, and don't rush into it. Not with the way everything is going at the moment. Ruby Retrograde Tarot. Hello! I have the previous edition already. Now I'm just wondering what to take. I know about the box and guidebook. Yeah, Ruby, if you check the campaign page and you look at the updates returning diviners section, it talks all about what is in each set and what things you might need. It looks like you already know about the book and the guidebook and the box, which would update your season stuff. But the Keykeeper set is pretty much all new. If you don't have any other dice from me and you haven't backed any of my other stuff like the Misery Tarot or the Hot Housewives Tarot, then the Keykeepers is all new. And you're unsure how different they are. I have videos on the campaign page that you can watch that talk about every single die and every single die face for both suits, both sets if you want. But also you can see in their sections like what the different dice are. So they are completely different from one another. The seasons and the Keykeeper sets are two totally separate dice sets. You can get one or both. You can mix and match them however you want. I've been mixing and matching them for all my readings here. So hope that that answers some of your questions there. B&W, I'm sure I said hi when you came in earlier, but I am reading your good evening right now, and I just want you to know I bid a good evening to you as well. Any other questions about the dice, the sets, questions for the dice? I am pretty open for things. Yeah, Scoreman, I get you. You know, one of the biggest things for me about making publishing Goblin my full-time job that was really important to me was the freedom to be in control of what I'm doing with my time. And generally what I'm finding is like there's a lot of parts to running a business, of course, that like are just as, if not more, frustrating sometimes than working for someone else, right? If you work for someone else, like a lot of dumb decisions get made above your head that you disagree with. But if you're working for yourself, suddenly you have to be the one making those dumb decisions. And sometimes you really realize, like, oh, maybe they were completely reasonable with the way they did it. Because the way I'm doing it is really frustrating now, too. The joys of life. I'm serious. My nose is so itchy. I'm just going to sit here and itch my nose like this for like 2 hours. Earlier we did a general reading for the day, which was really fun. We also did a general reading for, oh goodness gracious, the United States, which was super questionable. Ruby, that's totally reasonable. There are 44 dice on this project now, 22 dice per set. It's a lot to look at. But the main thing to know is that they're totally unique sets. There's no crossover. If you get both sets, you won't get duplicates of anything. And each die has its own unique function. When there were 22 dice, it was still like, I have to pick and choose the ones that are working for me. But yeah, the Keykeepers ones being added now, it's like there's 44. It feels like a much bigger ask to like pick and choose what you want to use. Which is why I would suggest, like, even if you get both, I would work with one at a time for a little bit until you become comfortable. Where did the idea for the Keykeepers come from? I like the concept a lot. Thank you, B&W. The Keykeepers are something I'm working on for another project. It's actually linked in this project, but it's called, I think I just called it like magical keys. I'm working on a set of keys, physical keys that will each be a different metal, and I intend them to come rolled up in a nice little like leather case with a grimoire, and the grimoire has rituals and activity things you do with the keys to use them in different ways as kind of a magical spiritual practice. And a lot of the approach to that was viewing the keys as particular things. And something I learned from the Oracle dice in the last edition is that I really like the idea of the Lords of the Dice, which is something I made in the second edition, which is where every die in the set has a corresponding lord. And these lords... Well, I did a bad job. I don't have all the right things here. But like the Autumn die is ruled by the Baron of Autumn. What I like about it is viewing the die as like an extension of the Baron of Autumn, and also like the Baron of Autumn interacting with people. Or if you roll multiple dice, you'd be like, okay, this is now... where's the Crone of Summer? She's right there. It's like if these end up together, it's like, well, the Crone of Summer and the Baron of Autumn are interacting here, and they're talking, and the way that these dice has these things having a conversation. So when I was working on the keys, I was thinking about, if I personified what these keys represent, what are they, and what do they look like, and what do they mean, and how do they act? And so that's how I was working on the key keepers, because each of them is a keeper of one of the keys. And my general concept there is like, they are one thing. So the key keepers are all one entity with a rotating 7-sided head. And my hope would be that you understand the keys system as something that works in unison. It's hard though, because the keys don't exist. So the key keepers are kind of like a first peek at the keys as a, I don't know, magic system. But they'll have to come later. I think my favorite die from the original project was the one where you flip to a page in a book. Yeah. So that's the chaos die. This is the book face. So if you get this in a reading, it means that you grab a nearby book, open a random page, and point to something, and that's what this die now means. This is the chaos die. In the first edition, the Chaos die was a 6-sided die, and it did similar stuff to this. It did like I would say like almost gimmicky, silly things with your readings. It would make you move dice. It would make you flick dice. It would do weird stuff. So when I made the Chaos D12 in the second edition, I was like, okay, it's gonna do a bunch of weird, unique things, and I generally don't use it because I find it changes too much. But that's just a personal preference. I know a lot of people really love it and they use it in every freaking reading, and that's why it exists. It's not for me, but even though this is like my divination tool, it's in some ways not for me. You know, for some things, it belongs for other people, which I think is great. 44, that's going to throw my analysis paralysis in overdrive. I finally started this year discovering the seasons dice by reading the guidebook cover to cover. Then comes the campaign and more dice. You know, Ruby, what's really fun is that because the new dice sets actually come with the Lord cards included, you don't have to buy them or anything. You will be able to grab the Lord's dice and like shuffle them up and deal out 8 cards and flip them over and then go grab those dice. The one thing that I could probably do to make that even easier is that like you look at the showman and you'll be like, I don't know what die belongs to the showman. I may add a little thing in a corner here that's just like, this is the blah blah blah. I'm really smart. I'd be like, this is the attentions die, and I would just put that somewhere so that you know. It's easier to find, hopefully. That's really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about the keys, but they're something that I need a lot of free time to work on, and that's just not where I'm at right now. So the keys project is vaguely in the future. Have you ever considered a D4? I'm stopping that question right there. No. 4-sided dice are really frustrating depending on how you roll them. Sometimes they don't roll. Sometimes you just like toss them and they land exactly as they were. My favorite 4-sided dice are the ones that are shaped like a barrel and then they have like rounded ends, so you roll it and it's kind of like a just long die, so it's just kind of like this if this was one die and just had rounded edges here. I think that that's the only reasonable 4-sided die, and if I did that, I would already lose your cool thing you're talking about where it has corners that interact in 3 directions. I do think that 4-sided dice are cool. I just think they roll so poorly, and so many people really struggle to roll them at all that I feel like they just don't. They don't do it. They don't do it for me. I've considered other like sizes of dice for sure. I will say that the difficulty is that the more complicated the dice get, the less space you have. So actually the D12 here was a huge issue for the symbol designer Amy. We were working on it and I was like, okay, I want a dumpster fire, and Amy's like, well, this is the best I can do. And I'm like, okay, well, it looks like a dumpster fire to me, but it is kind of hard to make out. This is like a burning bridge, but like you might not know that. It kind of looks like a mountain or a tiara or a forest or something. D12s have so much less space and they have a lot more edges that come in at all the sides that makes it harder to make D12s. You get to a D20 and I would not want to do that. That would be horrible. So 6-sided are really, really fantastic because you have a lot of surface area to fit a symbol on. A 4-sided dice would be fine. You would have less space for sure because you don't have 4 sides. But I'm curious what the like design specs are on a 4-sided die. Maybe I'll look into it, but not immediately considering any 4-sided dice. What kind of ideas do you have? Things, the corners of them interact in those 3 directions. It's kind of fun. You got my mind working on a D4 right now. That's not fair. You're not supposed to do that. I believe I've told people I would never, ever do this. I will never add more dice to the set after these 2 sets because it's too many already. But you're going to make me make a 4-sided die now. Stop it. Why are you doing this? I was wondering, when learning, would you recommend practicing reading dice on the mat or without? For example, practice reading 3 to 4 dice on bare table. Ruby, it really depends on the person. For people who are really, really overwhelmed by the system, I would say read without the grid to start, because the grid is, I would say, the deeper layer that gives the dice more meaning. And if you feel like just rolling the dice is too much, it's probably going to be best if you just roll on a bare table, or you roll on the cloth but you don't even think about the cloth. The cloth is just there. You pretend it's pretty set dressing. It's like, okay, what did I get? All right, I got Icon, I got Trash Man, and Prima Materia, and I don't care about this grid. There's just a line of dice, because people are going to have to start figuring out what this is. Scoreman, what you are describing right now is like the chaos die. Granted, it wasn't a 4-sided die. Those are these stone. I don't need stone dice at the moment, I don't believe. So this is actually, if you ignore the random frosted blue D6s, this is the original 14 dice set. Boop. This right here is the original chaos die. It was a 6-sided die that did different things. It's like this face would be, you pick up every die and you move it to the next closest die around like the clock, and then you move that one to the next one. This moved everything all the time. This face was like, grab the 3 nearest dice and pull it into a triangle over this one. Remove the nearest die. Rotate all the nearest dice. Depending on where it ended up, you'd like re-roll dice. This one was pull everything around it into a circle. This was the 14-point star, and it did a unique thing for whatever die it landed near. It would be like, okay, if it landed next to the Mariner's die, which is this one, you do this thing. If it landed next to the Spring die, it does this. It landed next to the Metamorphosis die, it does this. And I feel like one of them made a line. Oh, the original 14 dice. Do I miss the original 14 dice? This is a real question. Maybe only because I designed the symbols. Which is kind of fun. I also had them made by Q Workshop. And I really, really, really love my dice. Do not misunderstand. The 2nd edition dice are fantastic. Q Workshop's dice are just a little sharper. They're a little better at being flat on all the sides. For example, on some of these really busier designs, like this chariot or the wagon, there's a little bit of a divot because of all the details. The original 14 were super flat and crisp. I will say Q Workshop is probably higher quality, but it's also really expensive. Maybe someday I could work with them again, but that would be another time. I had a lot of fun with my original dice. I don't read them ever anymore. They just sit here looking pretty. Also, some of my designs were a little questionable. Some of them, people would look at it and be like, what does that mean? And I'm like, oh, well, it's fire. And they're like, that's fire. Yeah, most people are familiar with the 2nd edition. I have a lot of people who are like, oh, the original edition. And then I'm like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, with the original 22 dice. And I'm like, well, no, those aren't the original ones. But that's okay. They're very, very similar. Look, chaos can be on your mind. I support chaos. Who all do we got here right now? There's a bunch of folks here. Who needs a reading? Come on, hit me up. I'm here for you. Or if you have questions about the project, questions about your pledge, questions about running a Kickstarter or a backer kit, I'm cool with all those too. I am just vaguely here for you. Like I scheduled like an AMA live stream to be live and just sit here and answer questions at some point. But that's kind of what all my reading streams are. I'm just like, I'll give you a reading, or I'll just talk to you. I'll give you any information you want. Here's a random handful of dice. What do we get? In our core, we have freedom. There's a big desire to get away from things, but it's paired with raise, which is telling me that the desire to get away from things is not entirely that. It's actually the desire to kind of like scorch earth everything you're doing, cut all ties, stop everything that's going on, and move on. Over here, excess, we have the schooner. These are separated though. Who's trying to end their life? That sounds like suicide. That's not what I meant. I meant destroy all of the things you have going so that you can move on from it. That's a lot. Ruby, when I was reading about the Mariner's dice and the drawings had to be reworked. Did nerfing a face happen a lot? Nerfing the dice faces happened every now and then. Basically, with the very first edition dice, right, where I did all the symbols myself, except for these two. These were guest designs, which is why they look much fancier than mine, which I still think is rude. But like, I did these designs. They're so exciting. I gave them to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer was like, these things don't work. We went ahead and fixed it for you. And then they showed me what they fixed, and I was like, okay. Generally speaking, in the first edition, none of the changes that were made affected the dice in any meaningful way to me. So I was like, cool. But a lot got changed. And I would say that the most common one that has been a problem, and I think it was a problem even in the second edition, Metamorphosis die. This die has too many fine little details. So you can even see it on this face, which is mostly good. But that line of dots at the very top here, some of them are not filled in. There were just too many, and because it was too detailed, some of the paint just didn't make it. And the egg for sure. There were too many little dots in the egg, and very few of them actually got filled with the paint or the ink, which is a common problem with the second edition set and the first edition, really. It was just too many little details. And we did nerf it, I think, the first time around, and then we upgraded it to make it a problem again. I don't know. A lot of dice face symbols had to be toned down. The Mariners had so many, right? Like, the knot was really complicated, and it featured, like, braiding in the individual lines, and they were like, we're getting rid of all of that. Thank you for manufacturing. Thank you. Oh, well. For the most part, the simpler dice, the ones that I originally designed, they were fine. And Cher, I've never had your dice and I backed the season set. Is that a good start to try them out? Absolutely, Anne. The season set is the original set. It's the one I did in the first edition. It's the one that I upgraded in the second edition, and now in the third, the set is locked in. The only thing that's really changing in the third edition is the fact that it will come in a box, and the fact that the guidebook will be a little updated. But it is the one that has had the most time in my hands, and so it's the one that will be, I think, the most done when you read through the guidebook. I think that the key keepers are going to have an innate problem where things I write in the guidebook that I send out to everyone will be things that I might have new opinions on in like a couple years down the road. Whereas with the season set, I'm pretty set on what happened in that set. I'm pretty confident in the meanings behind them and how thought out they are. So, and absolutely, the seasons is basically like the starter set. The keys are your weird expansion set that add strange things. Glow in the dark dice. That's actually something that was in the first edition. Not that I'm going to be able to show it at all, but the Alchemist die in the first edition, the ink is white because there's glow-in-the-dark ink. And if I get it really juiced up and then showed it to you, all of the lines would be like glowing green, which is pretty cool. But then I realized that that's a really silly gimmick and nothing else does that. And Win will use them in the dark. So in the second edition and third edition season sets, the Alchemist die no longer glows in the dark. Because it was kind of a needless expense. Of course, I'm still doing glow in the dark resin dice for the Keykeeper set for 10 dice. So what do I know? Well, let's see here, everyone. What do we think is the secret to drawing in 600? Just 600 more people. What do we think? How many folks do we have to go shake down on the streets and tell them to join us? Because I will. I don't even know what I was reading here. No one asked a question. I just kind of cast some dice. Let's just take a look at what it was anyways. So we had a need for freedom. There was the raise from the actions dice telling me that someone wants freedom from something, but specifically they're going to like burn down all the things in their life to get freedom rather than leave, which is quite a lot. Over here, we do have the moons, past verging on history, so there's definitely an outer thing. It suggests to me that other people have some false paths they might have taken, and that might relate to the querent in some way, like maybe they blame the querent for leading them on false paths. Alternatively, it could be exactly the other way around. Other people might have led you a little bit astray. There is excess here, which does suggest to me that in the past you were engaging in excess, and that really ties here where you were probably doing foolish things because other people pushed you along to do it. It's still on you for making those choices, but it seems like other people really egged you to go on that journey. In the present, I'm seeing passing is way out here in Foundation, which tells me that something is changing in your life that is maybe changing how you're viewing foundations to your life. What things have happened before, you're learning new things that maybe are changing how you view it. And your present, we have the anchor face. Someone was asking about this. It is kind of alone here, but it's telling me that your present is becoming your new anchor, which makes a lot of sense. Your past, you're realizing, isn't quite how you remembered it. There was information you didn't have, and now that you have it, you're remaking kind of your foundations on that new information. And that's really going to change your life quite a bit. And that makes a lot of sense why you'd want to raise what you had, because maybe some of the things you had in your life were built on a lie, for example, and you would like to change that narrative, refocus yourself on things that make a little bit more sense. In the future, we have arcane influences, which tells me that there are things affecting your life that you have no real understanding of. And this sounds like a repeating pattern. If you were just in a position where your life changed in a big way because you realized that things that you knew before weren't true, ending up in the same kind of scenario where you're like, things are affecting me and I don't really understand what they are or why they're happening, that sounds like it could lead you into some problems. There's definitely concerns. Over here in Faded, we have time as an obstacle. We also have the wand and social progress. It tells me that there is fated to be social change in your life. You're going to find new directions to direct your energy, but there is like limited time to do so. I think that you're kind of putting timers on things because you're worried about how they turn out on account of you don't understand necessarily what people are doing or what their ultimate goals are, what their maybe hidden goals are if you start to get nervous about what people are intending. So whoever needed that reading, it is there for you. I'm pretty sure I only have the Seasons dice and the 3 Game Takers dice. I think I'll end up getting the full key set. I don't mind having 2 sets of the Game Takers. Yeah, Square Man for real. It's also, I think, the same price if you just buy without it. It's like still $69 because the add-ons themselves are each a little more expensive because that's a pick and pack deal. But yeah, just have duplicates. One of the really fun things for me is that when people move from the first edition to the second edition, a lot of people just got the full second edition, even though it just had some new dice in it. So then some people have like 2 of the winter die, for example, and like there's nothing wrong with that. You could actually read with that. So I think that's great. Yeah, the Game Taker's dice would love to be used with the Seasons dice. And sure, my next question is, I have the dice from the Alleyway decks. Will they work with Seasons? Yeah, actually, that's exactly what Scoreman's talking about. The dice that came from the Alleyway decks, those 3 dice, which are fantasy, movement, and trying to grab it desperately. Resources. These were the 3 Alleyway add-on bag dice, and they're actually part of the Keykeeper set now. So yeah, they work with the Seasons just fine. You won't have guidebook entries for them if you aren't getting the Keykeeper set, but you should still have the cheat sheet cards that came with them, and they work the exact same. They will give you the info you need, and then the more you work with them, the more you start assigning additional information to them, different ways that you've been reading the dice. I really liked these. I thought they were so delightful when I put them together. And I was like, yeah, they'll work with my Oracle dice, but I probably won't read with them ever. And for the longest time, I didn't. And it wasn't until I decided that they would be part of the Keykeeper set that I started really using them for Oracle dice readings. And I was like, wow, these are actually great. These dice rock. I'm so happy with them. The movement die is fantastic. It adds elements that just aren't in the season set at all. The resources dice is also so specific, and it's like if people are working on things or creating things, I always pull it out because it relates so deeply to different elements of the process in a way that none of the other dice ever have. And the fantasy die is generally, honestly, useful for almost any reading. I can't get over how much I have called this die, the black and red die, the majors die, and it's kind of like the major themes die. It hits some big ideas, but they're a little disconnected, honestly. If I ever revised one of the original dice, it'd probably be this die, but I love it too much, and so I'm probably not going to touch it. But the fantasy die does something so similar. It has some major themes on maybe how to take on problems. Maybe the fantasy die is actually the problems die. How do you handle these problems? Is there a miracle? Is it something that'll defeat you? Are you ready for it? Do you need some distance? Do you need some time? Will you lose? Should you avoid it? What a great die. So, and yes, they will work with your seasons dice, and they're incredible. I've had so much fun reading with them in these reading live streams. They just cover so much ground. Oh, I know. There's even more people now. I know y'all are here. Who wants to hop in? Who's got questions about stuff or questions for the dice? I am always ready to roll some random dice and give you exciting answers. That's like my job. Maybe another lighthearted question. What's a good strategy to keep a good attitude for the month? You know, a lot of us need that. I think that's a delightful question. Let's take some of the... Let's take some of like the zanier ones. I want some of the weird dice that I'm avoiding. Who have I been avoiding here? Maybe I haven't used you as much. I definitely don't use you as much. That's on me. Attentions die I love too much. I'm just going to include it? No. We're going to leave it out. Let's bring Tell. Let's bring Mal, to be honest. Hey, Alex. Just wanted to say that reading was fantastic. Oh, thanks. What reading? The one that I just read for no one? Because that was the last reading I did. No one asked a question. I just rolled and started acting like I was telling someone something. But that was the reading. I'm sure it's useful to someone. All right. B&W. What's a good strategy to keep a good attitude for the month? This is kind of a random assortment of dice, but let's see what we get. In the core, I have a head wound. This is a very, very targeted wound. It means that Maybe we're dealing with very specific pin cushion cut type things. When I think about targeted wounds, especially when it comes to arrows and nails in particular across tarot, I think about these wounds as being very, very targeted, like they hit a very particular thing. Over here on the edge of Past and Faded, I am seeing that there is a gift. When we're on the edge of Past and Faded, we're dealing with history. These are things that are just like innately super duper true for your situation and what you're doing in your life. They also are really foundational moments for your history. Like if you were thinking about your life story, they are some of the most important things that you think of. There's a gift being given here, and I'm so curious what it is. Who is she? What does she mean? I have Tell with Worry. Tell is one of the key keepers, so there's one of the new dice. That's why we have stickers all over it, because I don't have those dice yet. But Worry tells me that in the recent past, we have been very, very worried about things. The image of it is actually someone rubbing a worry stone. Over here, we have the folded hand. It's telling us that coming from the past to today, we need to be ready to get rid of things that aren't working. And I find that this feels like an important mirror to the gift. I would view this very similarly to what I would view... Where did he go? There you are. To the wobbly wheel, which is on a die we're not reading right now. But the wobbly wheel is like you are given a gift, and it's really great, and it works for a while, but it's actually not very perfect, and it doesn't work super well, and eventually we have to replace it. It was a kind gift, and it served us for years, but we can't hold on to things like that forever. I'm thinking that's a lot of what's happening here. There's a lot of foundational gifts that we were given, and that now we are learning to let go of. So your question is, what's a good strategy to keep a good attitude for the month? I think that in the past we spent a lot of time worrying. It's really easy to worry right now. There's a lot of things happening in the world. But there's a lot of foundational things that like we might have to learn to say, that's not as important to me anymore. Way out here, you actually can't see it. I have the chrysalis. We love the chrysalis. It is beyond. It is between momentum and foundation. So it's just kind of beyond the time stream here. It is telling me that, generally speaking, in the present, we are dealing with a space where we're in our cocoons anyways. So a lot of the things that we think are directly affecting us right now maybe aren't that important, to be honest. That sounds a little demeaning, right? Like sometimes we get really in our heads about what things matter the most. But we aren't interacting with a lot of those things. So while they are things that might be good to be upset about, as long as we're taking some kind of action, just putting it in our minds to be upset is not going to help us. So maybe we just don't for a little bit. We're in the cocoon. We're doing the cocoon thing, my friends. Over in the future, I see scavenging. I also see prima materia. Prima materia tells me that in the very close future here, we're going to be entering a space where we will have all kinds of opportunity to form things to the way that we need to. I think this ties heavily into the idea of letting things go that aren't working for us. When we have that space and time back and that mental energy back, it gives us what we need to make something better. It's easy to just complain about what's not working, but maybe if we don't for some time, especially about things that maybe we don't have control over in the first place, we have the energy to do something different with that drive. Scavenging is over here too. It looks like even in some of the hardest times, there will be worthwhile things to find. It's one of those clouds have silver lining things, but it's a little bit different because it's also recognizing that scavenging, right? We don't want to be scavenging forever. But for this next month, sure, let's scavenge. Let us find the good things in our lives that outweigh some of the bad things, either in our lives or in the greater world, society, politic, you pick. Way over here, we have honesty, and inevitability. Yay. What is inevitable is that the honest truth about what is happening in our lives or in the world is going to come around. Um, Saying that we're not going to focus on really difficult things that are just going to hurt us or stress us out and scavenging for the good things and making good things in the meantime does not mean that the truth is lost, and it doesn't mean that we're ignoring the honest facts of the world around us. It just means that we're not pressing on our brains at all times for the now. So that would be my answer. What's the good strategy to keep a good attitude for the month? Stop carrying the things you can't afford to carry, and just set it down for a little bit. It'll still be there when you're done. But it doesn't mean that we can't find something good for now. Just wondering, do you think you'll bring back those wandering tears toward the end of the project? I imagine logistically they're very unwieldy. Scoreman, that's so funny. Um, According to my schedule, Monday would be when I bring in the wandering tears. I removed it from my schedule just before lunch. For anyone who's not familiar, in the past I've done wandering tears, which are like I will put some kind of cryptic clue in an update, and then if you figure it out, you'll know what time and what day something cheap will appear, and it'll appear for like 10 minutes, and you have to hop on and grab it while it's available. Um, at this time, I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to do that. Mostly just because I think the project is going slower than expected. I expected, like, my internal goal was that we would be over 100,000 on day one, and we are, oh gosh, 6 hours into day two, and we're at 63,000. So I feel like while it's a fun game to play, what it ultimately is I put in extra work to give people who are paying attention discounts, and it just lowers the number. um, at the same time, I think that Wandering Tears are super fun, and it's a fun way to be interactive. I think the trivia hopefully will be fun and interactive, but it's also, it feels a little disconnected because I'm making the questions, I just release them, and then people, hmm, bah. I don't know. I want to do Wandering Tears because it's fun. We'll see. We'll see. Technically, Monday is when I'm supposed to reveal some Wandering Tear information, but I will consider maybe some fun Wandering add-ons that make expensive things a little cheaper, because there's a lot of people who aren't buying expensive things because they're expensive, but they were cheaper, they might buy them. So maybe that would actually do things to make money. Um, Sorry for a wandering answer for you, but wandering tears are really neat, and they're something that I don't know that I pioneered, but I definitely made them without knowing other people doing it. So I would like to do it again. I have two questions for the dice and then one questions about the dice. So I would like to just hit the question about the dice first and then hop into some more readings. Alex asks, I also have a product question. Could you show off the storage chest? There's not a whole ton of info on the page about it, but it looks really nice. Alex, thank you for saying it looks really nice. That's a photo mock up of a jewelry box in my bathroom. However, the actual chest itself is based on that exact design, and I found a manufacturer who makes jewelry boxes like the one in my bathroom, and I was like, I want to make this, but I want it this size and with this many drawers and with these spaces in the top. So, Alex, the I would love so much to show you the storage chest. I pushed the manufacturer so hard to have it done and in my hand by the time the project started, and it's not. I don't have the storage chest either in hand or any photos of one, because they told me that their design manager got ill and he's been in the hospital for like the last like week or something, which obviously is bad, and like I wish him recovery. However, I was talking to them a while back, and I was telling them how important it was that I had things by certain dates. So I don't have it. The mock-up that you see in the photos is still really close to the final version. But until I have the final version, I wouldn't feel comfortable being like, here's more mock-ups and different angles. I'm like, no, I just want to show the thing. So I told them it was really important that it gets done soon and that we get lots of photos of different angles and drawers open and stuff like that, because I want to show everyone how cool the chest is. I designed it. I'm very excited about it. It holds everything. I wish I could show you, but I have yet to see it myself. So hopefully soon, Alex. I surely intend to have an update. It's in my schedule to have an update about the chest with a bunch of pictures and stuff. We will just wait until they get me photos, and then I will mock up a bunch of dice around it or something. I remember all the tears that popped up on the last day of the Alleyway Oracles. It was such crazy fun. Yeah, Apocalypse Girl, that's very similar. I have a whole new thing now where it's like end of project party stream, where I make a bunch of tiers that are cheap and stuff, and then people can grab them. I'm going to be doing that too. Wandering tiers are just during the life of the campaign. Things will pop up for like 10 minutes, or something will pop up on a Tuesday at 7:13 p.m. and it will be for $10, and there's only one copy of it available, and it goes to whoever finds it, or whoever cracks the riddle and knows when it's going to appear. That's more of the wandering tiers. They're usually very much cheaper, and they come at random times. Okay. Let me get to those readings. I'm sorry, I've been rambling because I'm a rambly guy. I just like to ramble about things. Ruby Retrograde, thank you for your patience. I'll throw a question out there for the dice. How are my intentions for this year doing so far? I know some came to pass. What about the others? I guess it's an advice question. Sure. Let's take a look at what you got going on, my friend. Yeah, intentions are still fine. What happened? I'm missing one of you. There you are, Summer. Ruby, that's so real. The thing with the wandering tears in the past is that I always made clues and put them in updates that people could try to crack the riddle, basically, and figure out when the wandering tear would come and what it would be. And some people would be like, oh, I got it. And other people were like, I do not understand it at all. And I was like, how do I help without just giving you answers? Someone else figured it out. Does that mean that it just means you couldn't get it and now you don't deserve it? And that feels weird. Making riddles is hard. That's what I found out. All right, Ruby, how are your intentions going? You have the tools you need, but they're in the closet. Why? Hey, Megan. I'm actually doing a reading right now, so if you hang out, you're going to see them in action. Additionally, there are a couple of videos on the project page that walk you through kind of how the dice work. But if you hang out in the reading stream, I've been doing a ton of readings for people, and you can kind of just pick up some of the feel. So right now, I just got a question from Ruby asking how Ruby's intentions are going for the year so far. Some of them have already come to pass, but what about the others? What kind of advice might help here? So I picked some dice that I think match the question in a way, dice that deal with choosing choices, making actions, etc. So we're starting here with the fantasy die, which is the sword and shield. This die face is telling me that you have the tools that you need to make the rest of your intentions come to pass for the year. However, we have the closet right here. The closet is somewhere, this is the attentions die. The closet is somewhere that you put things that you don't necessarily want people to know about, but you also kind of feel are going to get out eventually. It's not something you're hiding deep down, but it's something that you're not showing for some reason. The fact that these are together is telling me that for some reason you have the tools to make some of your intentions come to life, but you're not using them. And it probably is because you're a little nervous about how it'll affect other people. That's usually what the closet's dealing with. It's like worried about other people's expectations or what they'll think about when they know. We also have whimsy right here, which is connected to the future. So I think we're going to come back when we get to the future. This is the past, present, future reading grid. The other side is the seasons reading grid, which is the one I tend to use more often, but we're doing this today. In the past, And I just say that because normally I start up here and then work around clockwise. But on this grid, I always go to the past first and roll around. I don't know if that's actually important to know. It's just how I read. In the past, we have the winter die. This is the cameo face, or the like memento mori kind of face, and it's a bit of a reminder that things come to an end. It does talk about death and kind of like being comfortable with the fact that you and everything else will end at some point, but it's not explicitly about death. It's also just about the end of things in general. It looks like part of your intentions were maybe coming to terms with things that have gone on from you, and things maybe that you've lost, and that has already maybe happened. In the present, I see on the autumn die, this is the change face telling me that things are shifting, but it's right next to binary and time. This is a very classic triangle situation for me. I guess this one is too, but we'll get to that. Triangles for my dice usually mean that if they're set up in a way where there's two on the bottom and one on the top, as opposed to one on the bottom and two above, this could maybe be read either way, but I'm reading with these two on the bottom. It means that these two things are upholding this for you. So because there has been some shifting change, and because you feel like you're running out of time for some things, or time is an issue for you or an obstacle in some way, in making these things happen, right? You're looking to make your intentions come to pass for the year. You feel like things are shifting, so maybe you're running out of time to make some of the changes, because once things have changed, maybe some of your intentions don't fit your life anymore. But you have this binary on the top. I'm reading this as, because you're really nervous about limited space and time you have before the change happens, you're like, I either have to do it or I can't ever do it. And I think this is hugely connected to having the tools but refusing to use them. Because you think things are about to come to an end, you're not sure that it's worthwhile making some of the changes that you wanted to, right? You had intentions to make things maybe better for your situation, and you're not really willing to if you think the basis has changed. Really easy advice here is that it's often worthwhile making some of those changes anyways. And the problem with binary thinking in this case is you're thinking, if I want to do thing 10, right, I have to do it 10. Or if I can't do it 10, I'm going to do it 0. But it's like you could do somewhere in the middle, a 7 or a 3 or a 4. It's just changing a little bit what your goals are and then still making that change. Okay, over here in the future, we have on the fate die, or the gambler's die here, we have fold. This is the second or third time I've seen this today. But fold is just knowing that when you have something that you no longer need to use, something that may actually just be a losing hand, for example, it's time to just throw that away. It's not worth holding the cards if they're not actually helpful. And these are really, really important to differentiate between. This situation over here is you being afraid to use your tools or the hand you were dealt because it doesn't quite fit the same way anymore. But it seems like that's binary thinking in a not very helpful way. It would probably be more useful for you to try it anyways, because the good it will do will still exist even if it's not to the extent that you're originally thinking. Over here, you may have tools in the future after all these changes have happened that no longer do anything. Those aren't useful to hold anymore. So right now, take action. Do the things you've been holding off on. In the future, if things have changed and they don't fit anymore, now's the time that you say don't bother. I also have whimsy here, and I said I'd get back here, and we got to the future. So this is a classic triangle as well, but this is very much an upside down one. The closet is here, okay, at the bottom. These two are held up on the closet, but obviously a triangle that is standing on its tip is not very good. That means that it's usually unwieldy, and this bottom thing might need to go. Whimsy is usually the sense that you are at other people's whims. It means that other people have a lot of agency in the situation that maybe you don't, and this can obviously be an issue. I think about it a lot as like someone who has some amount of power over you or some amount of say in what you're allowed to do, like a boss at work, a teacher if you're in school, a parent if you are living at home. They make choices that change what you are able to do in your life. And if you don't maybe even understand why they're doing it, it feels like you're just living at their whims, whatever they come up with. This situation's obviously untenable, and it's all this closet's fault. It looks like you have the tools to do what you want, but you are hiding them, and because you are hiding them and not making use of them, you are still stuck at using them at the like whims of another person, and that's just not helpful. So the easiest thing to do here is pull out the closet entirely, right, and recognize that there's someone in your life who is making choices for you, and you need to just tell them outright, like, I'm so sorry, that's not going to work for me, actually. I am going to do this or that thing. Over here, still in future, we have Void. Void is on the suits die, which typically has the suits of tarot. The cups, the swords, the wands, the discs, and also we have the crown for the major arcana. But we also have Void, which means that what is there is completely devoid of any other characterization. Because it is tied over here with Radiance, I think we'll get to him in just a second. First, I want to talk about this. Way out here in the inevitable area. This is on the actions die. I'm sorry if it's a little hard to see. There we go. I almost be the influencer. Yeah, there we go. This is Haste. Haste is a face that is saying, hey, by the way, you need to act quickly. But it's all the way out here on its own. And being on its own with nothing else to tell you what you need to be doing, I'm saying that there is some inevitable stuff. There's stuff that's going to happen no matter what. Okay. Because it's going to happen no matter what, it's better to do it now, is the advice. And it's this. I don't know if it's this, but I think it's this closet thing. That's got to go. You got to start making the decisions right now, even if it kind of puts someone else out because they thought they were helping you or helping guide you or supporting you. They don't get to make those decisions for you. And it's better if you just pull the Band-Aid off. Okay, and Fated. Fated is things that are inevitable to come to pass no matter what you're working on, as long as you're on this path. I don't believe in like predestination. I'm not saying these things will happen no matter what you do. I'm saying if you stay on this path, this is the final outcome. And the final outcome, we have Radiance and we have Fire on the edge of the core heading into the Fate. And Radiance, again, was connected to Void. So I'm going to read Radiance as strictly, clearly as it is and not read into it too much more. Radiance is when you are blinded by the glow or light or energy that's coming off of someone or something. And it's usually, in a very like direct reading from the guidebook, it's kind of negative. Radiance is not, wow, this thing's radiating beautiful energy at me. It's like you're so overwhelmed by what you're seeing that you treat it really well. It's like, wow, this woman is very beautiful and she kind of is getting what she wants and people aren't thinking about it too hard, and she gets away with stuff that a woman who isn't considered so beautiful wouldn't get away with. Or a man. That wasn't a gender thing. I'm just saying, like, there are, the pretty privileged thing where it's like, wow, this person's beautiful, and wow, they actually are treating people kind of crappy. And but it's kind of fun and diva-like, so we're gonna roll with it. So it does look like maybe if you don't remove this closet thing, one of the things you're kind of stuck with is this sense that you keep just doing what someone is telling you to some degree because they have this power over you that's making you unwilling to call them out or stop it. And then Fire is like traditional fiery ideas. It's stubbornness. It's also energy and focus, kind of what you're working on. I think of Fire is very stubborn. I don't know if other people think Fire is stubborn, but I sure do. It burns where it's at and it refuses to move. You can try to move and it's a lot of work unless you really coax it. It's in the core verging on Fated. I am generally just seeing that because it's in the core and it's kind of connected to this grouping, that it's saying the same thing, just kind of one final time for the final outcome. Like, if you don't change the situation, you're stuck in this space where you are staying with letting this person have some control over you, and then they have, some control of your energy and focus, and that's just not very helpful. So long story short for your reading is that there's action you can take right now. In the near future, there's stuff that you need to let go of, but also, uh, I think you have some tools in your hands or in your mind that you do need to just let go of because it's probably not going to serve you in the near future. But recognize your power. You got power. You got the sword and shield. You got the tools you need. Make it happen, my friend. Yeah, thanks so much for your question, Ruby. Mm. Yeah, that's so real. It's easy to set up binaries and like kind of like ultimatums for yourself, really, to be like, either I do this or it's not worth it. And there's so many times where it's actually worth it to go a half measure. It's like, oh, okay, I can't do the thing anymore. Well, can I do half the thing? Okay, I'm still gonna do half the thing, and sometimes that still scratches an itch or helps you get to where you're trying to get to. Hooda. That was a little bit of a long one. I'm sorry. I was really going. Robinks. Is it Robin X or Robinks of the Unseelie? I love that. I have so many fun things there to play with your name shape sounds. Queuing up another question: ways to handle or survive in increasingly hostile environments, or maybe how to hold on to hope while still being active during hard times. Um, I'm happy to do that reading, of course. B&W did just ask a kind of similar question about how we can go through the next month and maybe find more hope or find some things that are connecting you better to the world. The first one. Well, what did I say first? I'm going to say Rob Inks because I liked Rob Inks. I'm gonna go with Rob Inks. I think that's what I said first. I'm gonna trust that that's true. But yeah, I'm happy to do your reading here. Let's see what we got. Because last time I think I did the seasons, I'm going to go ahead and use the key keepers for this. So these are the mocked up dice for the 7 key keepers. Obviously, the real ones won't look like this. These are just stickered on with the names. Jason, what is the process for asking a question? Like, is there a list? The list is the chat. So right now, Rob Inks is the only one who's asked another question. We do have just about 30 minutes, so I'm going to do this one, and then I probably have time for another one, maybe 2, if they're not super long. Okay. All right. That's so funny. For the other reading that was very similar to this one, Rubbings, we actually had Mal's honesty face show up there too. Very core to the reading is accepting that there's important honesty to be had here. Your question's like, how do we survive? It's really, really stressful. There's a lot of things pressing on us right now. The first step is honesty and recognizing the, sort of like the truth, the bare bones truth of what's happening. And then Sin's Die, the inevitable face, the inevitability face, really, which is the idea that the honest truth about all of this is that everything that's happening, I don't know exactly that you're talking about politics, but I sure have been feeling that, is that this will eventually end. It doesn't mean that it won't be right now and that it's not going to be difficult right now. But one of the really lovely parts of life is that these things do all come to an end. Everything does. So hard times will end. Will they become like perfect, happy, good times? Maybe not necessarily, but what we are looking at right now will not stay the same. Can it get worse sometimes? Sure. Can it get better? Yes. That's just like how we kind of start. Right over here, I see Weir, which is one of the key keepers with the opening face of Weir's Die. And this is on Within, leading into the past. It looks like there was space where you had openness. Basically, Weir's like the keeper of like doors and barriers and opening and locking things. So I think about opening as like doors have opened. You have opportunity here. There are chances to do things. And it felt a little more like that was available in the past. I also see Tell with the Ore and Woon with the Rising Sun. It looks like in the past, especially for you maybe, it felt like you had to put in some work, but the daily routine worked. You felt more open for things. And because present is pretty empty here, except for one thing that's way over here, I am coming to understand that this is maybe what you miss. This is what it's feeling like it's missing for you now, because it was in the past and it's not here now. You felt more open, like there were opportunities, there were chances, maybe there were ways forward that were a little more positive. You had to work for it, but it was still there. And now it feels like that's not available. You can't work or keep your routine up in a way that brings back the openness. And out here, I have Fell's release. Fell is the key keeper and the name of the die, and then release is the face that we're looking at. It was off screen a little bit down here in momentum, talking about the present leading into the future. Releasing is exactly what it sounds like. It's letting go of things that maybe aren't working out for you. In this particular case, it looks like there's a release for the momentum. What's happening right now is not your future, right? Even if it's really difficult and oppressive, for example, it doesn't mean that that's what's inevitable for you, and it doesn't mean that that's what's tomorrow. Tomorrow being maybe a broad time term right now. I am definitely talking more like months or even years ahead. But what you're carrying right now is not worth carrying into the future, right? So much of finding hope again is realizing that, like, if you don't close your fists on the things that are falling into them, you're not going to carry it with you. So just let it go. It doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean that you don't look at what's happening in the world. But it does mean that you can't carry that burden with you every day. If you do, that's just too heavy, and it means you take it to the future, and that's not a future you want. So don't. That said, we have fuel. We have the tracking face from future into faded. It looks like there exists space for you to find your way back to not the same life and time that you knew, but one that's very similar. Tracking is, of course, like tracking an animal or tracking your breadcrumbs to find your trail home. It's the idea that there are going to be steps coming that you can follow that will take you back to the place you're trying to be. The most important thing you can do right now is not bear the burden of what's happening and take with you. So that's my advice. To find a little bit more hope is to recognize that this will end, and frankly, some people may die who have caused bad things eventually, one way or another. Jason, you sounded like you had a question, but I said you can ask in the chat, and I'm not seeing it. So, Jason, go ahead and pop your question in if you have one. Otherwise, Zamilla, I would love to answer your question. I have a love question. Will I meet my soulmate or similar? Sure. Let's take a look. I'm going to grab the longings die because I want to know what you're looking for. I'm grabbing the obstacles die because I want to know what things might be in the way. Wounds because I'm curious if there's any pains involved that might come up. Love. Actions die because I want to know what you need to do. This is the kindness die just because you want to find love, and I hope there's something nice. I'm going to grab the autumn die just because it's about things changing and moving, and I'm curious what that's about. I love that die. I can't use it right now. I'm going to grab both of my very standard characterizer dice, which to me is the suits and elements, and relations, because it's about relationships. I want to know how people are interacting here. All right, Zmilla. We have the longing to be held. One of the core reasons that you are looking for love right now is because you want someone who can support and appreciate and not baby you like they're your parent, but I mean baby you in a way like you're taken care of, you're a little pampered, and that's a good and positive thing. However, right next to it, I am seeing a cut. This is the wound. It's telling me that there is something in your heart maybe that has been harmed, and that's why you really want to be held. So understanding that you're going towards relationships and love right now with the hope that they're going to help heal some kind of like wound in your heart. That's not necessarily bad. However, it is something to be mindful of because it could mean that you're looking for someone to do some like emotional labor to help you heal that maybe you haven't been doing for yourself. Depending on the person or people that you find, sometimes the people really fit in and they help heal you because their love just does that. But sometimes you'll be expecting them to do that work, and when they don't, you're disappointed, even though they fit in your life in so many other ways. So that's just something to keep in mind. In the past, I see personal transformation. It looks like maybe you made a shift in your life before tied to this wound. This shift is probably like a reaction to the wound. It's not the wound happened and then you changed to get rid of it, because the wound's still here. So it looks like the wound made a lasting change to you. So we're already starting from there. We have the barrel here, which is storage or stores from the autumn die. It means that you have been gathering things to maybe survive through winter. I would say that you're probably like gathering love and support and foundations to keep you good and safe. I see my cat, and if he joins us on the desk, he'll start batting dice around, so we'll see how that goes. But I see you. Um, so that tells me that you were expecting to be waiting a while. It also means that maybe you're holding on to a lot of memories about other people who may not be in your life anymore or may not be a romantic interest. And that's just something to keep in mind. If you're holding a lot of memories about other people and how, well, what good things have happened in relationships before that you maybe expect in the new one, you might be bringing a lot of expectations with you. In the present, I will say we do have the heart struck through with an arrow, okay? This does tell me that you are meeting someone who is maybe romantically very viable candidate for you. And it is present. So it could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be this coming week. It is very much a now thing. Will you meet your soulmate or similar? You are definitely going to meet someone that you can love. This is true. In the future and within, I see self. This doesn't mean you're isolated or anything. It just means that the stuff right here is very much about you and you alone. I see the tower or ruin, and I see the wand over here in faded, and these three kind of make a line together. What I'm seeing is that there is going to be a huge shift in what you are looking for and what you're willing to put your energy and focus into. So maybe a warning there is that if you start a relationship soon with the things that we already know here and knowing kind of what you may be looking for, you may come to realize that it's not quite what you want, or that this person isn't fulfilling that for you, and that may cause a huge shift. My hope would be that shift would be maybe recognition of the good things about this person that make it a worthwhile romantic endeavor anyways, because they don't have to fix you, right? You want them to love you, and that is a different thing. I would say I hope that would be the outcome. The alternative is you have a huge shift personally that pushes them away from you because you realize you don't want them because they can't fulfill those needs. But it's not someone else's job to heal us, right? So I would just be very, very hesitant that you don't make any quick choices about pushing people away or keeping them in your life for the purpose of helping you feel more whole. I would make sure that if you find someone who's actually such a good fit for you, but you realize that your past wounds are a problem in the relationship, that you would refocus to work on changing and healing it. I do see fire in here, which is a very stubborn thing. Hi, Tom. Welcome. This is Tom Bombadil, everyone. And yeah, so I see stubbornness, and I would just warn you, be wary about being stubborn. Do not stay in your ways and be like, well, they have to fit in my life. I think that could be really isolating and not help you reach your goal of finding someone to be present with you. So yes, I think that love is available. You just have to make sure that you are being honest about what you want from love. All right, Jason, I'm happy to do your question, and that'll be my last question for tonight. I will be doing more readings on Monday, and I'm also sharing a new trivia question tomorrow. Um, but yeah, this will be my last reading for the night, and then we can just kind of chat for the remaining time. Give Tom some snuggles. Tom, people want me to give you snuggles. They think that you're so abandoned and hated, and you need so much pets. But what they don't know is that you're a little demon who unplugs my phone at night so that this phone webcam situation gets more difficult. Mister. Okay, Jason, I just finished grad school looking for direction. What's next? Let me tell you what happened when I finished grad school. I moved to a new state and then got a really not impressive job. However, your mileage may vary as your grad school might be better than mine, than my degree. Well, Tom just moved this die, so I'm going to add it. I'm loving the fantasy die. Let's use it. You want direction. So I want you. Where are you? There's the Mariner's die. Where are you? It's not really your question. You don't want that. No. Maybe. Relations, what obstacles you might face. I feel like sin is good. She's gonna find bare bones. We like that. What things do you need? Tell wants to help. All right, Tom. Are you gonna help me, or are you just gonna be in the way? I'm betting you're just gonna be in the way. Can I make you a little space so that you can sit instead of being in the way, Mr. Kitten? Can you go to your spot on the desk? Okay, you're being a butt. Move over. Look, you have space. Isn't that nice? Look at all the space you have. Sit down, sit down. It's okay. You can sit here. You can hang out. All right, I have moved the cat. Hopefully, this will let us do a reading without... No, you can't lay on it. All right. Hey, get away from that die. What do you... You can't eat it. This is what Tom Bombadil has to say. Plus, 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 plus. All right. Thank you for bearing with me, Jason. Tom is blocking the future. He agrees with me. No reason to look there. No, we don't know, Jason. There could be cool things here. He loves playing with Oracle dice. I'm picking one up in his mouth and running away with it, so I have to keep an eye on him. He's trouble. Trouble with a capital T. Mr. Bombadil. My sweet baby boy. Yeah, I love you. Thanks for being here. All right. Jason. In the very center, I see together. I'm assuming that you're taking this general journey with another person or people. That tells me that where you're going after school, if you're moving, I don't know why I'm assuming you're moving, but if you are moving at all, this is working. You have other people here. We'll get to that later because it's on future. This is faith. This is pillars. This is describing what pillars you rely on in your life, things that you really, really use to get you through the day and get you through hardship. This says faith. Faith doesn't have to be religion, though I do know that the icon, not that you can see it because it's not there, but the icon is someone like praying. I think about it as maybe being about religion or spirituality for sure, but also it can be about having faith. Some people just have faith in the universe. I often do, that things will somehow work out, even when they're really, really difficult. Okay, that was violent. What was that? Wait a minute. All right. Okay, it was an anchor. Cool. I appreciate being on a live stream so I can just check and see what he just threw away. Okay, you do lots with your Wicca group. Okay. I hesitate to tell people it's faith. It's about your religion and spirituality because some people don't have that at all. But yeah, it usually is about those things. So I'm glad that you're in a Wicca group because Otherwise, I have to be like, you have faith. And people are like, no, I don't. You can't make me. We're going to start in the path right here, the past. We have the demon face on the fantasy die, which usually refers to a fight that you have lost. It was a really difficult enemy, and even if you did take it down, it might have taken down a lot with it. That is how I read it. It is paired with Sin in the Deep Night. Sin is the name of the Keykeeper and the name of the die. Deep Night is the face. Deepest Night is focused on when you are very much alone in the late night and kind of just thinking about things on your own. And I would say that these things paired suggest to me that you may have struggled quite a bit on the way through the grad school, especially when you were left alone with your thoughts to think about like what was or wasn't working. You did conquer, right? You've graduated, but there's still some doubts that just kind of are sitting with you about what there is to, accomplish. And I see, because it's here with lead, and we'll get to lead in a second. Over here we have bricks. Bricks, I do this every time. I'm not going to read it this time, but I do have cheat sheet cards that color match so that you can do a quick check to see what it means. But I've shown them every single time that I roll this die, and it's getting a little old. So bricks is about respecting the foundations you need to lay and taking the time to lay them right. Because they're more without than within, meaning they're near the edge of the circle rather than the inside of the circle, I wouldn't be surprised if this is stuff that people were really impressing upon you as things you needed to do, and that made everything all the more difficult. Lead is here. In alchemy, because it's the alchemist's die, lead is the poisonous substance that you use to create gold. And it means that if you spend all the time that you need to make the gold, that's worthwhile doing. However, if you're not going to finish the full process, which is long and involved, you're going to be left with the poison the whole time, and it's probably better to throw away the poison than keep it. You finished grad school, though, so I would say that you have put the effort forward to turn the lead into gold. And now it's right here at the edge of present, so it leads directly in here to a completely empty space. There's not a single die in present, which is telling me that you have no idea what's going to happen because you haven't made choices yet. I will say you've put the work to turn the lead to gold. This was the hardest part. It should have been the hardest part. You have faith here that's leaning towards presence. I would say that spending a lot of time with your Wicca group could be very, very helpful, and helping finding direction in your life probably is a good time to spend a lot more time with your spiritual practice to help find out what you're looking for. Because right now you don't have anything planned, so nothing can be set. However, when we come to the future, right along the faded line, when we get to the things that will happen if you just continue on this general path, is we do have time as an obstacle. Yeah, there was an anchor too. You're so right. I'm looking up at the live stream where I paused it. The anchor was right here before a certain cat flung it away. I am kind of obsessed with that. Tom was like, that doesn't count. Tom, what do you think? Does that count? Oh, and your fur's covering this. You butt. All right. Anchor, alone and present. Earlier, someone asked about Anchor because they said that in the flip through video that I did about the Seasons dice, I didn't cover Anchor, and I was like, oh, I didn't. When Anchor is on its own, I view it as kind of characterizing the whole section it's in. For the present, I'm going to view Anchor in shadow, meaning I'm kind of looking at the more negative interpretation. We're knocking it down one more time. Thank you. Did you want to look at it? Yeah, you might eat it. Thank you. Thanks. Sorry. I'm looking at it more in shadow, just meaning kind of the more negative view of what it means. And that just means that right now the present has kind of like this weight around your neck. and you're really holding on to this notion that you've made gold, now what? And this expectation that you're supposed to be doing something right now is really weighing you down a lot more than it's anchoring you and giving you foundation. So with that in mind, I would say in the future, because we had another die here, which was horse. Tell is the die, horse is the face. It's actually the strong horse, and is on the edge of without. You will need to put in a lot of really hard work, labor, with other people in other spaces. This likely means some kind of job. Make a lot of effort to put yourself into the outer world. But that's something that's coming in the future. This is not a present thing right now. Presently, find out where this anchor belongs. I would say find out where you should set anchor. If that means moving, it means moving. If it means looking at the job market, it means finding out what your niche there is and trying to determine where to drop it. I do have the whole over here in the attentions die. The attentions die talks about how much attention something has or how much light it's shedding. The whole is, I would say, that sounds bad if I say the worst one, but it is like the worst phase because it's about putting something in a hole that you never expect to see again. In the near future, or maybe in the later future, heading into fate, we have something that is time sensitive that you feel like you're running out of time for, and you kind of just throw something away that you never intend to get back. And that's not correct. That's not right. And I would say that fated is usually like where your path is leading if you don't change anything. Like this is the inevitable outcome, and the inevitable outcome appears to be you just kind of throw away something that you've done because you feel like it's run out of time or it's run out of value or worth because it's been too long. And because this is the most important element here, I would say you turned lead to gold. Don't throw away the gold. Like you've already done it. Maybe there's a little bit too much patience in the present. Maybe there's a little bit of an unwillingness to set things in action because we have the strong horse over here in the future. I think that it probably needs to be here. I was gonna say like maybe don't do a ton right now, but I'm gonna change my tune. I looked at the rest of the reading. You need to start taking actions now, and what the actions need to be is pulling up that anchor and moving it. I know that that's a little vague, but I think it's gonna have a lot to do with your faith and spirituality. Spend more time there and find some paths and understanding ahead about where you need to be, because once you figure out where the anchor goes, all the work can start. But unfortunately, you have to kind of pick up and move home first. But just remember, you already did the thing. You kind of won. Yeah. Don't spend so long with weight of indecision that you do nothing and throw it away. That's not very helpful. Thanks to Tom, that reading took a lot longer than I intended, and we actually are down to about 3 minutes left of the stream. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Thanks for hanging out. I know that it is Friday night, and many of you probably have hot dates going on. I know I do. So I'm going to go ahead and say good night and have a lovely weekend. Thank you, Tom. Thank you for giving me your paw. And I will see you on the project, hopefully. Tomorrow, I actually have an interview in the morning with Lisa Pepez, who I will... you'll actually be able to see that like a week later. Only her subscribers get to see it right away when we do it tomorrow morning. Otherwise, I'm also going to release trivia question number 2. Keep in mind that if you go to the trivia challenge tab on the project, you can pick a team to join and you can answer the first trivia question. There will be 11 trivia questions overall. If people are interested in the trivia, I might add more questions and just release them sooner. I think trivia is a fun new thing that I want to interact with on BackerKit, so we're going to try it out. Again, thank you. Have a lovely one. Mondays and Fridays, I'll be doing reading streams like these in the morning and the evening. So stay tuned, come join, ask more questions, and I will be here for you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely